Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Sean with EnglishAlready.com. Are you ready for today's grammar lesson? Today we're going to be talking about the causative verbs. That's right, there are verbs in English called causatives. And they're get, have, let, make, and help. Principally today we're going to be talking about just two of them. Don't worry, because by the end of this video, you will not only understand what causative verbs are, but also will understand why they're important and how you can use them when you're talking to other people. Are you ready to get started? Let's do it. Causative verbs show the reason why something gets done. It does not show that the subject does something, but that the subject of the sentence causes someone else to do something for them, or even for another person. Today, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about get and have. So why are we starting off with get and have? Well, because these two verbs are the verbs that give most people a little trouble. And they have very, very similar meanings, so they're easier to work with. And I think you're going to understand them very clearly and be able to use them when you speak, as I mentioned earlier too. So let's get started. So to start with, have and get as causatives. In this particular example we're going to discuss these verbs as passive voice causatives. Passive causatives. Let's look at the structure here. We're going to form the sentences by saying subject plus causative verb, so that could be either get or have, plus the object of the sentence, and of course the main verb of action. Now in this case, let me put the first example so we can identify the different parts of the sentence. Here's the first example. I have my car washed every week. Yes, my car looks good, right? So my car looks good because I have it washed every week. So look at the structure of this sentence. First, I have, and then the object, my car, and what happens to the car? It gets washed. Now because this is passive causative, you'll see that the verb is in the passive voice form. Now maybe the majority of you watching the video are perhaps in intermediate or even advanced English, and for this reason you probably have already discussed passive voice at some point in the past. So you'll notice that when we use passive voice, we need to use our verb in the past participle form, so all of the examples that follow will follow the same structure as the one you're now looking at. Here's another. Sheila got her hair done last Tuesday. You ask, why is Sheila's hair looking so good today? Well, it's because just two days ago on Tuesday, Sheila got her hair done. Now, did Sheila do her hair herself? No, because causatives say that you cause someone else to do something. Let's look at another example, this time in the form of a question. Did you get your shirt dry cleaned? Wow, your shirt looks new. Did you get it dry cleaned, or is that a new shirt? Even though this is a question, the structure still follows the same pattern. This time we're asking if the subject caused someone to do something. The action of dry cleaning happening to the shirt. The action of washed being done to the car, etc. Look at this next example and see if it follows the same pattern. We want to get our photos taken. Maybe a young group of people say, we just graduated from high school and we want to get our photos taken. So who's going to take their photos? Is it going to be a selfie? No, it's not going to be a selfie because they're going to have someone else take the photos. Here's one last one as passive causative, also a question. Did you have the ceiling fan installed? I know that they are very difficult to install by yourself, so did you have someone install the ceiling fan? Once again, as you can see, they follow the same pattern. You'll notice that in all of these examples as passive causatives, we don't know who performed the action, and we don't mention that in these cases simply because it's not important. If we wanted to mention it, we could use what we call the by phrase. For example, I have my car washed every week by the car wash down the street. Now we're going to move on to another form of causatives using have and get. Let's see what the structure for this one will be. We'll put subject plus have. We're going to start with just the causative have this time to show a small difference between the two. Also, we're going to put the object. This time the object is going to be a person, so we're actually going to know who does the action. And we're going to put the verb of action. Well, let's see what an example will look like with this. I had the teacher explain the lesson. Wow, I didn't understand the lesson. I had the teacher explain the lesson. So how did I do that? Well, I asked the teacher, "Teacher, can you please help me because I don't understand this lesson, please help me." And probably she said, "Of course, I'll help you." So I can say, I had the teacher explain the lesson. Now once again, the following examples will follow the same pattern. Listen to this next one. We decided to have the group sing the song together. Wow, they sound so great when they sing together. So we decided to have the group sing the song together. Another. This one is also a question. Now, I might mention at this point that when we use causative verbs, they are normal verbs. So we can use them in any tense that we want, whatever the situation calls for. So listen to this next example, which is actually in present perfect. Have you had the doctor test you for the virus? Have you had the doctor test you for the virus? You know, there is a virus going around. It's important to be tested. Have you had the doctor test you for the virus? Here's one more example. Using have as a causative when we are also seeing who performs the action. Here it is. James is having his wife teach him to dance. James is having his wife teach him to dance. His wife is always complaining that he doesn't know how to dance very well, so he decided, well, why don't you teach me? So James is having his wife teach him to dance. So what we've seen so far is just the causative have being used in this structure. Now, why did we only use have in this case? Because there is a little difference. Let's analyze one more aspect of the examples that we just looked at before we move on to get. You'll notice in the verb section, the verb in the last position. The verb is always in the simple form. And the first example was, I had the teacher explain the lesson. So in this case, the verb is in the simple form. It doesn't change. It doesn't have any other option. Just as you see it, explain. If we do conjugate the sentence for another tense, we conjugate, that's right, the causative. There is our difference with get. Let's consider an example with get. In fact, we'll take our very first example again. This time we'll see how we use it with get. Pay close attention. I got the teacher to explain the lesson. You see that? Do you see the difference? So you'll notice that in this structure, the verb needs to be in the infinitive form instead of the simple form. So if I use have, I had the teacher explain the lesson. But if I use get, I will say I got the teacher to explain the lesson. So let's look at another example. We already mentioned that James is having his wife teach him to dance. So how would you say it if you had to use the word get? Think about it. Pause the video. Say it to yourself a couple of times. If you said, James is getting his wife to teach him to dance. You're absolutely correct, and fantastic if you got it right. So the idea is to practice between have and get, remembering that the change is very small, but the change is very consistent. It would not be correct to say with a question, have you had the doctor to check you for the virus? To check you is not correct because it doesn't match have. Have with the simple form of the verb and get with the infinitive, which is to plus verb. Great. There is yet one more form that we can mention today, or another way that we can use get when we're expressing that we want someone else to do something for us. Now in this case, get is used more than have. Okay, so let's figure out what that would be. This time it would be get plus subject plus object, which is also people, and then the infinitive verb. This time we're using get to persuade people or convince people to do something. Let's see how that might sound. It's hard to get people to wear a mask nowadays. To wear a mask for their health, it's hard to get people to wear one. A mother or father might say, I can't get my kids to do their homework. It's so difficult. I can't get my kids to do their homework. I can't convince them. I can't persuade them. They don't want to do it. Here's a question. Can you get your neighbors to help you carry the boxes? Well, you have a lot of boxes. Maybe you can get your neighbor to help you carry the boxes. That would be a perfect example of trying to convince or persuade someone. Maybe in this case it's simply a favor. And here's the final one. I need to get Joanna to send the invoices. It's very important that the invoices get to the client today. I need to get Joanna to send the invoices. Well, that was a basic review of the causative verbs using have and get. So I hope you enjoyed it. Remember that we need to practice a lot, and if you do, these verbs will really help enhance your English. Don't forget about that part. In a future video, I'll also talk about the causatives let, make, and help. So subscribe to my channel, please, if you enjoyed this video, and there'll be other videos coming up very soon to help you with other aspects of your English progress. Thank you for watching.